Since 2017, Dana White's Contender Series has become a go-to location for young MMA talent, with several of its alum going on to find success in the UFC. We've already done a video of top talent snubbed on the show. Today, we look at the fighters the boss took a chance on and immediately regretted. Welcome to the INC, and these are 5 of the worst Contender Series signings. It's damning that the Contender Series' first signing would also be one of its weakest. On paper, Boston Salman had everything you looked for in a young prospect. A training partner of Max Holloway who built a 5-1 record competing in RFA, including a win over the most unfortunately named fighter in MMA history.
We know, Pat, that Mayannis can take a pounding and come back. Yes, it can.
This led Salman to get a call for the first ever Contender Series card in 2017, putting on a striking clinic to beat Ricky Turcios by unanimous decision, and doing enough to earn a UFC contract alongside featherweight Kurt Halabow. After 2 years on the sidelines with knee injuries, Salman made his company debut against Khalid Taha, where it took just 25 seconds for the Hawaiian's ring rust to get exposed. Salman was given a second chance against Randy Costa at Fight Night Boston. Salman had no answer for the strike speed of Costa before being finished midway through the first round. 2 minutes of action was enough for the UFC, who released Salman from his contract in December of 2019. Back on the regional scene, Salman returned to the public conscious in 2020, when he claimed a disqualification win over Sean West after suffering one of the most brutal illegal shots in recent history. Salman is currently signed to the Professional Fight League and holds an MMA record of 8 wins and 4 losses. Contender Series Brazil featured 2 of the show's most successful alum, but while Tayla Santos and Marina Rodriguez became top 5 staples, the same can't be said for one of their countrywomen. Making her debut in 2016, Zara Fruto became one of the most notable fighters on the Brazilian regional scene, thanks in part to her unique appearance and grappling ability, which carried her to an 8-0 record. But against Mayara Santos in episode 1, Fruto let her hands do the talking.
Oh, and an uppercut land, and another one! And that will finally do it!
Fruto was handed a contract by the UFC president Dana White, and immediately booked in a match against former Invicta champion Livia Souza at Fight Night Fortaleza. It was there Fruto's career started to unravel, suffering one of the biggest weight misses in company history when she fell 8 pounds short of the strawweight limit, before being out-wrestled by her smaller opponent on her way to a split decision loss. Fruto was forced to move to flyweight for a match with Jillian Robertson at UFC 240. After threatening her opponent with early submissions, Fruto gassed at the start of the second round, allowing Robertson, a fighter known exclusively for her grappling, to claim the first knockout win of her career.
She got it. Jillian Robertson, no submission tonight. TKO.
Fruto's embarrassment was confirmed a few weeks later, when she tested positive for multiple stanozolol metabolites and was given a 2-year ban by USADA, with the UFC releasing her from the promotion shortly after. Despite the reprimand, Fruto chose to ignore her ban and return to action in regional events outside USADA jurisdiction, only for her plan to backfire when she suffered decision losses in her next 2 fights. Fruto last fought in MMA in November 2021, and currently holds a record of 10 wins and 4 losses. Brazil has been home to some of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. Unfortunately, you can't add Vinicius Moreira to this list. Inspired by Minotauro Nogueira's fights in Pride, Moreira started training jiu-jitsu before transitioning to MMA in 2015, building an 8-1 record competing for India's Super Fight League. By the time he claimed a win over John Alain on the Contender Series Brazil, there was little to suggest the downturn that would follow. Moreira made his debut at Fight Night Brooklyn against Alonzo Menefield, an unbeaten powerhouse who'd finished all his opponents in the distance, and took just under 4 minutes to add Moreira to this list.
Dan Mugliata steps in, that'll do it. Alonzo Menefield has arrived.
Moreira suffered first-round losses to Eric Anders and submission expert Paul Craig. By this point, Moreira had earned a reputation for his awkward striking, holding the distinction of never landing a single head strike in his UFC tenure. Moreira was given one final chance against Ike Villanueva at UFC Fight Island. Moreira managed to make it out of the first round for the first time in his tenure. Unfortunately, it didn't go much further than that.
Kick punch. You can't kick punch.
No.
Paulie, you can't kick punch at the same time. You got to kick and then punch, or punch and then kick. You can't kick punch.
Moreira was released from the promotion a few days later, having become the first man in company history to lose his first 4 fights by stoppage. Danielle Wolf earns her place on this list due to the pointlessness of her signing. Wolf entered the Contender Series with much intrigue. The Wrightsville, Pennsylvania native was a 3-time national boxing champion before transitioning to MMA, with her match on Season 4, Episode 7 marking her pro debut. Immediately, red flags were raised. Wolf was 36 at the time of her transition and intending to compete at featherweight, a much maligned weight class with just 4 fighters on its roster. This, however, didn't deter the UFC, who booked Wolf against 3-0 bantamweight Tanisha Tennant. The fight played out surprisingly even, with Wolf controlling the early stages before Tennant rallied with a chain of flurries that left the boxing stand out on the back foot. A guillotine attempt in the 3rd round saw Wolf claim a unanimous decision. But with age, performance, and weight class against her, many believed it would be one and done for the Pennsylvania native.
The internet is freaking out right now, saying that she lost the fight, she didn't win, that she got beat in this fight. They're not the ones who get to decide that. She won, and I'm going to give her a shot.
The UFC immediately ruled their decision, as Wolf spent the next 2 years on the sidelines with a series of nagging injuries, most notably in May last year when an elbow issue forced her out of a match with former title challenger Felicia Spencer. The 40-year-old is set to face Norma Dumont in September, still having yet to make her debut for the promotion. Life has dealt JP Buys a rough hand in recent years. Buys was one of the most unique signings in Contender Series history, having appeared on Season 4 of the show alongside his wife Cheyenne, with both receiving UFC contracts after winning their respective fights. Buys made his UFC debut against Brazilian fighter Bruno Silva, himself looking for his first win since signing for the promotion in 2019. The first 10 seconds came to encapsulate Buys' company tenure.
How about no flinch from Buys, though?
That's a solid cut, Brendan. Doing its job.
Buys was outclassed for the majority of the fight before succumbing to a 2nd round stoppage, a similar setup which played out in his sophomore outing against Montel Jackson. While Buys was able to go the distance with Jackson, it came after breaking the record for the most knockdowns in a UFC fight, and placing questions over whether the South African was worthy of being in the promotion. Buys' biggest blow, however, came outside the cage, when rumors spread that he and wife Cheyenne had split in the weeks before the Jackson fight, with Buys claiming his wife had cheated on him with featherweight fighter Roman Dolidze. Cheyenne, however, was quick to respond, claiming she was in hiding due to the fallout and insinuating she'd only married JP to get him a visa into the country. Buys' most recent fight came against Cody Durden in June of this year, being dropped once again before succumbing to a 3rd straight loss. Cheyenne, meanwhile, has gone 2-1 in the promotion and become one of strawweight's most popular fighters. Buys still remains under contract at the time of recording, but many wonder what happened to cause such a downturn in fortune. Personally, I blame attacking a French fighter with a baguette during weigh-in for EFC. And now, time for a few honorable mentions. Kurt Halibo was one of the first signees in Contender Series history, and one of the first to leave after losing his first 3 UFC fights. Jake Hadley signing in 2021 was so poorly received that it nearly caused the backroom staff to stage a company walkout.
Sean and Mick stormed out of the room when I did and took off here tonight, so they're not happy about it. So hopefully I'm right on this, and this kid doesn't make a dickhead out of me.
Antonio Tricoli won a UFC contract, popped for steroids, and was released in the space of a month. Think of him as MMA's Salman Grundy. This is the INC. Please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a video.